Hello, I'm attorney Tammy Saltzman, and you are watching Divorce Connection Network. Today I am here with Laurie Dubow, a very dear friend for 10 years, who is a realtor and a mortgage broker with a background in psychology. Hi, Laurie. Welcome.
Hi, Tammy. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. So, Laurie and I have done business over the years. In my divorce practice, people are always buying and selling marital residences. After they sell marital residences, they are looking for other places to move. I have a real estate practice in addition to my family law practice, so I do title work, and I represent buyers and sellers of real estate. So Laurie and I have done a lot of business over the years. The reason I'm inviting Laurie on the show to talk with you today is because when I got separated from my ex-husband 4 years ago, it was then that I was able to first experience all the emotional issues that are involved with selling a marital residence. And 4 years later, and I'm now just closing on that house and getting ready to move. So, Laurie, you know what I've been through. 4 years ago, you showed me different properties. We listed my house, and then we got a buyer, and then I said, no, I don't want to sell. And then we listed it again, and I didn't like the buyer, and I was like, no. And, and also the market was the very volatile with prices, and I didn't want to let my home go so low that all my neighbors would be mad at me. And there was a lot of things that were affecting me, and my 8-year-old son at the time, he did not want to move. Mm-hmm. So you deal with this all the time, and you focus, one of your niches is dealing with families going through divorces. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Tell our audience how you got involved in helping divorced couples.
Sure, Tammy, I would love to. It was about 8 years ago, and I was asked to observe a workshop called Second Saturday, What Women Need to Know About Divorce. And at the time, I had been divorced a few years, and I had gone through a lot of emotional and psychological issues myself. So I was going to help the person that was running the workshop kind of get a sense of what was going on. And after completing the workshop, I realized a light bulb went off in my head. Every single person that's going through divorce needs to do something with their marital residence. You're taking one family that's living in one home, and you're dividing it into two. And there's a lot of upheaval, and there's a lot of emotional and psychological issues. So I realized that it was important for me, because I have a background in psychology, and I actually practiced psychology for about 15 years before I went into real estate. I realized that I had a very special gift and a special niche to help people that are going through transition deal with the emotional and psychological issues that they encounter, but also it's really important to take into account the emotional, psychological, and financial issues of whether to stay in your home or leave your home. And very often, one of the spouses is left with the very important decision, do I stay in the home or do I leave the home? And there are so many issues involved, it's very complex. So very often, I end up becoming a semi-counselor and a friend, as well as a real estate professional, and it's my job as a real estate concierge to make sure that all the bases are covered, that my client really understands what the issues are that are involved, and that they make a decision that's the best decision for them and their family.
A lot of people right now are facing foreclosure, short sale issues. Even though our economy is gradually improving, and I see it in my business, my real estate business, a lot of people are upside down. They really have no equity, and quite often their credit is affected. And I know in my case, you were able to help me get into a rental for a year so that my son could finish up in the school district. That was what was important to me. So I'm not sure where I want to buy a new home, but I knew that for one more year, I wanted my son to stay in the same school.
Right.
So when we went looking, that was my number one issue, and you were able to send me a very detailed map of all of the communities that were in my school district, and that was very, very helpful. So,
Thanks.
credit is important. School districts are important. splitting up assets, you take this sofa and I take that sofa. I have found a lot of times couples are fighting over things, and they go to court and want the judge to tell them what to do with their things.
That's correct.
And so much money is spent arguing over stuff when it's just stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, in addition to the emotional and the psychological issues, one of the things that I found was 4 years ago, my son at the time was 8, and he did not want to leave his friends. He was very connected to our cul-de-sac. He was very connected to the people that he had grown up with. He was born in that home and was raised there. Now that he's 13, he's actually excited and looking forward to making new friends.
Yeah.
He's excited to still be going to the same school. So how the move is going to affect your children is very important. And we try in our divorce practice to remind the parents that they should be doing something with the marital home that's in the best interest of the children. And sometimes that means staying in the marital home.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you also do mortgages, so sometimes you can refinance and get one spouse off and keep another one on. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. And years ago, when I first started in the business, anyone could get a mortgage. So it was very common for the wife to stay in the home with the children and to refinance. And then when the mortgage industry got turned upside down, it became much more difficult to do that. So what I suggest to people is that they take a full evaluation of the entire situation. And the first decision that somebody has to make is, do they want to stay in the home? As in your situation, it was complicated. You had issues with your children. You had all different things going on. So the first decision is, do I even want to stay in the home? Now, if you've ever watched the movie The Wizard of Oz, I don't think it's any coincidence that one of the most famous lines in the world is Dorothy, and you can picture Dorothy with her ruby red slippers, clicking them together and saying,
That's right.
"There's no place like home. There's no place like home." And even Dorothy realized that home was where her deepest emotional connections were and psychological connections. So people have an emotional and psychological connection to their home, and so do their children. Sometimes that's positive, but not always. Sometimes there's a lot of negative feelings about the things that happened in the home. So the first thing you have to do is decide in your heart, do I want to stay in that house? Is it best for my kids to stay in that house or to get a fresh start? If you decide you want to stay in the house, then you have to put together the financial wherewithal to decide whether it's going to be a financial decision that you can stay in the home. There are a lot of things to consider. When you're considering buying a home or staying in your home and refinancing, it's not just about principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. You also have to think about credit card debt. And those are things that a mortgage broker is going to take into account. But something that a real estate professional or a mortgage broker might not normally take into account is, are you saving up for your kids' college? Do you like to take vacations? Do you have an elderly parent that you might need to take care of? Do you need to have 2 bedrooms on the first floor because of a sick child or an elderly parent? There are so many factors that you need to take into account. And once you put that all together and decide, yes, I can afford to stay in the home, yes, I can get a new mortgage, and that's the best decision for me now, or maybe not so much. Maybe I don't want to stay in the home and I need to sell the house. If you need to sell the house...
It could be a combination of both also.
Mm-hmm.
I knew eventually I was probably going to end up moving. So when, in my own situation, at first, I had to get divorced. So that took a little while. We went through the divorce. Once the divorce was settled 2 years ago, I started to negotiate with the bank and tried to do a modification. And back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth, and determining whether or not that was going to work for me. And then, of course, my house started to age, and things started to break. And I'm a single mom, and it's a big house for me to take care of by myself. In addition to all of that, I was also hoping that the market would improve, and that my my house would go up in value, which it did. And when I finally decided I was ready to make a move, there was the question of, do I want to rent my house out instead of sell it? So there's lots of things to always consider. And when you're working with a realtor who also has a degree in psychology, it might make it a lot easier. And I know that you were very helpful and very patient, I might add, when helping me sell my house and now rent a new home. And I think it's great. Another very important thing that I just want to put out there for any lawyers that are watching, that Laurie goes to court when necessary. She acts as an expert witness when necessary. She does full comp analysis reports of what the house was worth on the day the petition was filed. So she really is an attorney's dream. Laurie, how do people reach you? Let them know.
Well, you can reach me by phone. My cell phone number is 561-929-3329, or you can go to my website, www.myparadiserealty.com, or you can email me at Laurie@myparadiserealty.com, and that's Laurie at myparadiserealty.com, and we are your real estate concierge.
As always, you will find Laurie's contact on our website. Go to divorceconnectionnetwork.com, click on resources, and you will be able to scroll down and find Laurie. Thanks so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you again soon.